everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday night 4-Star Chicago Sports Podcast. This is the Barely There podcast. How's everybody doing tonight? Kyle, Jay?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Well, I'm hanging a little bit, but I'm all right. We're gonna get through this just fine. It was a fun Tuesday night over at the old River Street Tavern.
It certainly was.
Yeah, so as we get this show kicked off, we got a lot to go over today. We're gonna go through the I can't talk either just today. We're gonna go through the positions, position by position, go through some players that we like, that we think the Bears could draft either at 10, maybe the second round, that can improve these positions throughout our roster. And not only that, we had Ben Johnson and Mr. Ryan Poles do some speaking at the meetings this past Tuesday. We got a little tape of that. And I think we might have a little insight when we get into that video on what's going on the left tackle situation for the Chicago Bears, because the way I took it is I don't think the Chicago Bears are going to be looking at a left tackle in this draft, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. Thank you, Erica. Breaking News Bruce. And Breaking News Bruce just put out there that the Chicago Cubs did win today. Our offense is scorching hot. Kyle Tucker didn't hit a home run, so he stopped at 4 days, but Seau hit 2 today.
Yeah, he's on fire.
Yeah, out of the minor league ballpark and into Wrigley Field we go for our Chicago Cubs. So they're leaving Sacktown and headed to the north side. And the White Sox, Jay's White Sox are off to a 2-3 start. Hey, you guys were 500 for a day. It's a lot better than you were.
It was a glorious day for 24 hours.
So really quick, let's pay some bills. And we just want to let everybody know that April 24th, we are having a live Chicago Bears draft party at our sponsor, River Street Tavern. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have all 4 of us out there. We're going to be hanging out, answering questions. We're going to get interactive with the crowd. As the Bears make their pick, I personally think the Bears will be trading back this pick. So if they do, we'll be hanging out even longer, and that'll be fantastic. Just remember, we are raising money for Bears Care, Bears Charities, for the less fortunate than us. And we have some awesome giveaways. We're, of course, running a 50-50 raffle. That 50-50 raffle will be a split the pot at the end. We'll be raffling off this awesome Charles Tillman pick. We have DJ Moore as well that we'll be raffling off. We got Dan Hampton that we're going to be raffling off. We got 2 sets of Cubs tickets. These are the tickets for the Marlins on the 12th of May. And this is for the Cubs on the 5th of May versus the San Francisco Giants. We also got donated from one of our best guys who always donates something for this, Zach. Big Fudge Breaks donated a Dan Hampton autographed helmet with a 2002
Sweet
Hall of Fame inscription on it. And we also added to the fray a DJ Moore autographed helmet, which I am sorry, I meant to upload to show you guys, and I forgot. So, nonetheless, we have a lot of prizes to give away that day. Hang out with you, raise some money for charity, take care of those less fortunate than us. We'll also have those $3 tall boys, Coors Lights, and half off chicken bites, and the hot dog special, which I forgot to ask about as well, but we'll get that information to you. Or you just come in, hang out with us, and grab a hot dog and have some fun. So, boys, as we move on here, we have some positions to go over, and it looks like we think the Bears have done a good job, at adding Tooney, Dolman, Jackson to this line, kind of rebuilt the line. They brought in Durham, Smythe, Grady Jarrett, Deo. Who else did they bring in of notoriety? Those are probably Zacchaeus. Yes,
Zacchaeus, yeah.
Yes, Zacchaeus.
Devin Duvernay will play a pretty big role in special teams too. So.
Duvernay.
Yeah, and we've got to thank Marquee Network for this wonderful idea, because we were kind of watching the show and they kind of ran this by, and we were like, oh, that would be an interesting thing to talk about with you all, and say, hey, where are the Chicago Bears and where can they improve? So if we were to start on this rebuilt offensive line going into this draft, where would you think, Kyle or Jay, I don't care who leads us off, what do you think would enhance this unit? Because I think this unit was enhanced very well so far by Ryan Poles, but what would take this unit to the next level through this draft process or maybe through free agency still?
I will tell you what, I after we were discussing what we're going to talk about today, I started looking at the whole roster, looking at the starting lineup. And one of the still, unfortunately, one of the biggest glaring holes that I can see is still offensive line. Let's not forget, we have Braxton Jones, but he had that pretty devastating ankle injury on December 22nd, right? Pretty late in the season. And I think they just had an article I read where he's maybe like limited at best case scenario going into training camp. So that worries me still a little bit, because if you look at depth, you've got Kieran Amagaji, who during the meetings they did mention a couple of times, both Poles and Johnson.
We'll get to him a little bit.
There's no other backup tackle with the exception of Theo Benedette. He was that rookie that was on Hard Knocks.
Was it the Canadian Eagles?
The Canadian Eagles.
Yes. So he looks pretty promising, but I don't know if he's really the answer. That's it. Those are the only two backup tackles. And I know you said they're not looking to maybe get one, and we're all hoping they get a running back or a stud edge rusher or something there. But don't be surprised if they still do take a tackle. It's not a guarantee that Braxton Jones starts the season. He may not be able to practice enough to start the season. It could be Kieran who starts the season, or maybe they draft somebody else and start them. So I don't know what they're going to do, but that to me stuck out to be the biggest need still, other than maybe running back or linebacker. But it just scares me a little, because obviously last year gives you, it gives you shell shock. You get PTSD from all those line configurations they had. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Jason, you pretty much nailed it. Like, the way too early starting lineup for the Chicago Bears offensive line right now, guys, would be left tackle Braxton Jones, left guard would be Joe Tooney, center is Drew Dolman, right tackle would be right guard would be Josh Jackson, right tackle would be Darnell Wright. Right. I think pretty much all of those positions are set in stone. They said during the meetings today that there'd be a competition between Kieran Amagaji and Braxton Jones. I'm pretty sure that's Braxton Jones' job to lose. He's probably cemented there as the left tackle, but definitely something they should look at upgrading, and not even upgrading, but as Sean's mentioned on this podcast numerous times, as Jason, you guys, Braxton Jones, whether you like, even maybe the Bears are in love with him, but he's in his last year of his contract, so he's about to be owed a lot of money. It doesn't matter how great of an offensive tackle he is. He's an offensive tackle in the NFL, and he's starting caliber. He's going to be due probably $20 million a year on the low end. The Bears need to decide whether or not they want to pay that ticket. Not to mention, if you do draft a tackle, say you're still playing like, we don't need to extend Braxton Jones, we'll draft a tackle next year. How do you know that tackle is far enough along in his development process to start from week one? So if you're going to replace Braxton Jones at some point in the next year and a half, I would look to do that in this draft right now. I mean, maybe you guys tell me if you think I'm wrong, but that's something I would be focused on right now if I was the Chicago Bears. I think that's the most important position on the field besides Caleb Williams when it comes to the offense.
Left tackle, guys.
Yeah, it's his blind side. He's a right-handed quarterback. You have to address that position.
It's also one of the highest paid positions in football, so it would be nice to have 4 years of control. I know you get 5, but in that 4th year, if that's the player you want, you usually like to re-up them to that big contract. And Erica puts down here, either trade down in the first and get Simmons, draft Irsay, or Connerly. I like all 3 of those guys. You guys know I'm a big Josh Simmons fan. I love Irsay a lot, and Irsay is a guy I think you could probably get in the 3rd round. I don't know if his I haven't looked recently to see if his stock has risen. He was a 3rd round pick at one point. But yeah, speaking of that boot, they did say that he still wasn't a walking boot as of recently. So I guess as the Bears draw closer to some OTAs and things of that nature, we'll kind of see if Braxton Jones is out of that boot, kind of where he is and what's going on. We also have to delve into the fact that we don't know if Bill Johnson likes this guy. He's a new offensive line coach. Is this a guy that Bill Johnson embraces as the left tackle anchor for the Chicago Bears? We don't know this yet. So I think there's some investigation and still some time. And I wasn't saying they're not going to draft, But when we play that video in just a little bit of Ryan Poles and what he had to say about Karan Amagashi, it kind of sounds as though he has a lot of faith that Amagashi is going to be the backup left tackle behind Braxton Jones and maybe the heir apparent. I don't know. We haven't seen enough from the guy. And he did comment too, because we commented the other day a little bit about how he came under some tough circumstances in that Minnesota game and it wasn't really fair for him. So, in this draft, those three names that Erica put out there, Irsay, Simmons, and Connerly, I think all would extremely upgrade this unit. What are your
great options? You can't go wrong. I can add one last thing. Sorry, Kyle. My other thing that worries me, Johnson said that he would like to see Karan Amagashi gain some weight as well. Coming off an ankle injury, that I don't know how that's going to do or how that's going to work out. But that was just my last little point there. It's almost like we kind of know what's going on, but man, I can see everything on this Bears roster can go like three different ways on each position. It's crazy.
Yeah, and like Broski Bear says, sounds like Poles is rolling with Braxton Karan. That's kind of the vibe I got too when I listened to Ryan Poles today or yesterday. That seems to be what he's thinking. But this shows about the way too early predictions of starting lineups and how can improve them. If it's a guy in the first round, guys, I'm not walking away without Calvin Banks or Josh Simmons. To me personally, I like Will Campbell a lot. I think he's a good player. I just think ultimately he will be a guard in the NFL. He reminds me a lot of Peter Skoronski. He's got short arms like Peter Skoronski did. Ultimately, Peter Skoronski was drafted and then moved to guard. I think the same thing's going to happen with Will Campbell. If you're going to address the offensive line in the first round, to me, it's going to be the Calvin Banks, which I honestly don't believe Calvin Banks is going to make it to 10. I think he is probably considered the best left tackle in this draft. And that's only due in part to the fact that obviously Josh Simmons had a major injury midway through the year last year. And people are worried about how his recoup's going to go. But at the end of the day, if it's the first round for me, guys, it's two names, Calvin Banks or Josh Simmons. If you're not in a position to get one of those guys, I do not draft a tackle in the first round. I'll wait till the second round. And then, like Scottish Bear here says, the two guys that I have my eyes on in the second or third round would be Irsay or Connerly. Those are the two guys that I think would be the biggest improvement. I think ultimately those two guys we talked about in the second and third round, Irsay and Connerly, are guys you would put on the bench and kind of let them develop and maybe plan on starting them next year, which is fine. We've talked about this on this podcast many times, right, guys? Not only do you need depth this season, but you also need to focus on building for the future. When is Joe Thuney going to retire? Are the Bears going to like Josh Jackson enough to pay him all 3 years of his contract or try to opt out of it? You need to start putting these backups in place so that these guys you can just take those guys out, let Joe Thuney retire, whatever, and the next guy comes in and it's the next man up mentality. That's what the Bears should be thinking right now. And then, Sean, I'm sure you saw today they added another offensive lineman, top 30 visit, Dylan Fairchild. So obviously the Bears are keeping a close eye on the offensive line in this draft. There's no doubt about it.
And they should.
And they absolutely should. And another name I'll throw out there that I wouldn't mind the Chicago Bears taking a look at and possibly bringing him in is Donovan Jackson from the Ohio State Buckeyes. That guy's an absolute monster of an offensive lineman. And I know Dylan Fairchild. I haven't had a chance to look into him too much. I know he went to Georgia, so it's just another guy from has a winning pedigree, comes from a winning school. So, and again, I haven't looked too much into Dylan Fairchild. I don't know too much about him. Not a name that I've studied. So
Sean, I have the draft or the Draft Buzz profile here if you guys want to hear it real quick. So yeah, Dylan Fairchild is obviously a guard, guys. He's projected to go in the 4th round. So this is somebody like what Sean and Jay I have talked about in the past. This is somebody you draft with plans on starting them in future. It wouldn't be this is not a guy you draft and he's starting day one over Josh Jackson or Joe Thuney, obviously. But he is 6'5", 318 pounds. He played guard, like Sean said, for Georgia, just another prominent school, another great top 30 visit for the Chicago Bears. There seems to be a trend here, guys. They're only really visiting with guys who played at really good schools against really good competition. We're going to have easy transitions to the NFL schemes. He's projected to be a 4th round pick. His 40 time was 5.15. Overall rating at 83.7 out of 100. He is the number 3 overall ranked guard in this draft class. And that shows you guys how much talent is in this draft class. I mean, this guy is the number 3 ranked guard in the draft class, and he's projected to go in the 4th round. There's so much talent in this draft. His pass blocking grade was a 93. His run blocking grade was a 77, so something he definitely needs to improve. He played 34 collegiate games. That's 1,444 snaps. His strengths, he has an exceptional wrestling background that translates directly to his ability to anchor, consistently winning leverage battles and maintain position through sustained contact and pass protection sets. Displays advanced spatial awareness when climbing to the second level, timing his release perfectly and adjusting his path mid-stride to intersect linebackers cleanly. Uses explosive hip drive and coordinated footwork to create vertical movement on double teams, consistently displacing defensive tackles off their spot in Georgia's downhill run game. And then once again, guys, a lot of the strength, they just kept talking about this wrestling background. They say he has the best hand placement of any offensive guard in this draft class, and that is due in large part to his wrestling background. It says wrestling home hand placement shines in pass protection, delivering precise strikes to defenders' chest plate.
You said he was a 4th round grade right now?
Projected 4th round pick. Yeah.
Projected 4th round
They
pick.
said that if he's one of those guys who, if anything, would probably sneak up rather than late. He would probably sneak into the 3rd round rather than sneak into the 5th, or like fall back into the 5th round.
Well, the Bears would probably have to draft him at 72 at this moment because they don't have a 4th round pick. So, I mean, I guess we'll have to keep our eyes on that.
And we did hear Ryan Poles talk today about the possibility of moving back and picking up a pick in one of those later rounds to do. So definitely not out of the realm of possibility.
Well, I stood on that on Monday and said I believe the Bears are trading out of this pick. Especially, I don't think Gentile will be there. I think Gentile will be going probably to the Raiders. And I do think that if Tyler Warren is gone, which he might not be, or the Bears feel like they can move back just a couple of spots and still get Tyler Warren, the buzz around Tyler Warren and the Bears is growing. Yeah. So I'm all in. I love Tyler Warren. I think this guy would be an absolute weapon. So that takes us to our tight end position. How do we improve that? I know we touched about it a little bit on Monday, talking about the contract, the $12 million a year that Cole Kmet would have. And then you bring in this kid, as a 1st round draft choice. I personally think that you can use him for 1 year. You can use these two guys together on the field and kind of figure out what you want to do and give Caleb Williams some weapons. Because you obviously signed Smythe for his blocking ability. Maybe he'll sneak in. Maybe he'll be our Brock Wright. I think Brock Wright had like 140 receiving yards last year and like 3 receiving touchdowns. He could be that guy in the Bears offense. So, but if we were going to improve for me, it's Tyler Warren, and I'll give you one other guy. And I know we've talked about him a little bit. I love Gunnar Helm out of Texas. I think that guy could improve this tight end room very, very much. He's a very good route runner, precise route runner for a tight end, big body, good blocker. His metrics are a little bit lower than Fannin and what's the
Aurora Gadsden.
Yeah.
And what is it, Colston Loveland too?
Colston Loveland.
Colston Loveland's a 1st round pick, is it projected?
He is.
So you'd have to trade back and take him in the 1st round for sure. Yeah. Sean, I agree with you. I mean, Tyler Warren that's the answer. If you really if the Bears brass, like guys like Ben Johnson, consider the tight end position to be that important to the scheme, and you need to go get a new tight end, then it's got to be Tyler Warren, guys. I mean, like Erica states here, if that's the only blue chip player left at 10, you'd have no other reason but you have to take him. Like there's really almost no excuse not to take him. And Sean, I agree with you. They could find a way to make it work with Cole Kmet and Tyler Warren. I would rather see them try to find a way to get rid of Cole Kmet's contract and put that money elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, if nobody's willing to take the contract of Cole Kmet and you draft Tyler Warren, you have to find a way to make it work. And I think Cole Kmet would have a much smaller role in this team because I don't think Cole Kmet's an amazing blocker. So I don't know how much you'd see him in two tight end sets. But yeah, I mean, Jason, you tell me, would you be disappointed if the Bears select Tyler Warren at number 10 overall? I mean, that's a weapon. It's not a tight end.
I mean, dude, it's like, hey, the best guy at his position, you drafted him. Are you upset about it? Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe it could end up being the best in the NFL at the position. You don't know.
And he very well could be. My biggest thing with them is I wouldn't be surprised if they still want to see what Cole Kmet can do in this newer offense. I mean, Poles did take a shot at him and re-signed him, right? He didn't do that with whole lot of the pace signings and draft picks. So, they obviously see something in him, and I know he blocks. He's a big dude, and maybe he can be that guy if the play calling is better, if the basics are better. Who knows? Maybe the route tree gets improved, and he takes it on, and he's great. I do know that they've got 4 tight ends on their roster right now. You've got Cole Kmet, Durham Smythe, Steven Carlson, and Joel Wilson. Those guys are probably special teamers or practice squad guys.
I was going to say, or won't be here on open.
not going to be here. No, but they're. I could see it. For me personally, that early in the draft, I would like to see them do something. Maybe I'd almost rather see them pick up a really stud linebacker than a tight end. And that's just me. Look, if we get Tyler Warren, I'll be happy. But, the other biggest spot for me was at linebacker, which, I heard you guys were talking about on Monday. And it is a concern. I know, you can never have too many linebackers, number one. Defense wins championships. So that's probably the biggest hole I think we have on defense right now, other than depth at DB, would be just that third solid linebacker. But would you rather have an edge rusher? Would you have whatever? I think you're fine with Tyler Warren. I just don't think they're going tight end in the first round. That's just me.
It sounds like Ben Johnson likes him a lot. It's going to be interesting, guys. Like
Ben Johnson.
You heard Ryan Poles say we've put ourselves in a position where we could go best available player. We don't care what position. We will find somebody who can help this team and help them immediately.
I was going to say it's kind of what I took away. Like when they were talking about kind of Tyler Warren, they were kind of glowing a little bit. Not saying they're giving it away that that's their pick, but they were kind of glowing. And I was just like, oh, look at the body language, and look at the smiles on their faces when they talked about him. Like, I think this is a guy on their board that they're going to maybe debate whether they're going to draft or not in the first round. I could be dead wrong. I still think the Bears are going to wind up trading back. So,
and you know what? This is the lying season. Sometimes it's what they're not saying that's more important than what they're saying. They could be throwing smoke. Oh, we love Tyler Warren. We love Tyler Warren. Now everybody's going to go after somebody else or, whatever, and just miss their guy. I don't really know. I'm not in their rooms, but I can't see why they would be lying. He is a very, very good player. But, after the first pick, nobody wants you to know who they're looking at.
Jason, you're correct. If there's anybody in the NFL who's good at deceiving, it's Ryan Poles.
Oh, God, yeah.
Every year we have no idea. Did you guys hear Kyler Gordon's name once in the Bears pre-draft process? Once? Did you ever? I didn't even know the guy existed. And the Bears selected in the second round. He's good at that. Ryan Poles is very good at that.
Thank God, because for years people were doing it to us. So I'll Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
As this unit as a whole, the Chicago Bears unit as a whole, offensive unit. We're going to flip to the defense here, get into this linebackers in just a second. The two weaknesses I see, if we look in this straight on paper, would still be my slot receiver and another running back in the running back room. And I know we've talked about this a lot on these shows, and obviously DeAndre Swift is going to be your starting running back. But I still think that the Bears have to look at these two holes, whether you get maybe a Pat Bryant in the fifth round or something like that. But you definitely have to look at that slot position. I mean, if Zaccheaus comes in as our slot guy, I'm not going to be one of these fans that's too disappointed. He showed good NFL potential. He's made some good plays in the league. He's not, Wes Welker, but he could be decent enough in Ben Johnson's offense, especially if he's schemed open. He's got some speed to him. But I really do think if I'm looking at anything on this offense that needs to be addressed the most, I still believe they need to address the running back situation. Unfortunately, I've been one of the biggest backers of Roschon Johnson. It's just not shown on the football field for him, unfortunately. But I do 110% that has to be a draft pick in this draft, especially how deep this draft is at the running back position. What are your guys' thoughts on what do you guys think is the weakest spot as you look? The offensive starters are scrolling at the bottom. What is our weakest spot here on this offensive side of the ball that you would like to see improved?
I mean, obviously outside of offensive line, like I said earlier, that's I would have to say it's probably running back. I think with the receiving core we have, I think it's decent. It's good. DJ Moore is a stud, right? Rome Odunze really started to develop into a really nice wide receiver. He was really good. If you watch his highlights, he was really good on the sidelines, which is something you really desperately need in a football team. And we'll see if he can develop into more. I wouldn't be surprised if they played DJ Moore and Zaccheaus both in the slot from time to time, and maybe they'll mix up everybody. But I think I agree with you. I think maybe running back might be the other biggest hole that we have because, you kind of like linebackers, you can't have enough running backs. You can put them on special teams, but when you get a really good running back that's a weapon that will get you 4 yards a carry on average, that just does so much more for your offense. It opens everything up. The entire playbook opens up. The other defense doesn't know what to do. They have to literally use their entire defensive playbook. It makes everything complicated for them. And dude, who doesn't love watching a running back run over dudes and run for 1,200 yards? I mean, it's football, right? We love it here.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, Sean, that you bring up those two positions, the wide receivers and the running backs, because, it's like right now the running back position has more depth, but you're not as happy about the starters. And then you're really happy about the wide receiving starting unit, but there's really no depth. So if DJ Moore or Roma Dunze get hurt, you're in big trouble there. But yeah, I would definitely say in terms of the starters, the running back is the biggest hole for sure. You heard Ben Johnson talk about today about how they saw Dave Montgomery as a running back and Jahmyr Gibbs as a weapon. He was just a weapon who could do a little bit of everything. I think the Bears believe they have running backs in this room, but they don't have that weapon. So who the Bears decide to draft is going to be interesting. I still think at this point, guys, if you're drafting a running back in the first round, it's got to be Ashton Jeanty, just based off of his numbers and based off of what they believe his projections in the NFL are going to be. Now, I do agree with Sean on one thing. For me personally, I'm not asking the question of who is the best running back in the draft. What I'm asking the question is the difference between Ashton Jeanty and one of these guys in the second round, say like a Caleb Johnson, big enough to take that position at number 10 overall? And I don't believe so. I believe Sean's talked about, you guys, this might be the deepest running back draft, and at least in recent memory that I can remember. I just don't, I mean, you even heard Ben Johnson talk about how there's a couple guys who are probably going to get going, undrafted free agents who are going to be really big difference makers for some of their teams, guys that some of you guys have talked about in the past year on the show. I think that's true for sure. I think the Bears could probably address one of those lines, because I think the offensive and defensive line are still the most important positions of football besides the quarterback. I think I would like to see them do something there at the number 10 pick, or trade back and get a guy like Josh Simmons at 15, and then go find your Caleb Johnson or Judkins or one of those guys in the second round. And I think those guys are all considered to be weapons, or they would be if you asked Ben Johnson. What I loved about Ben Johnson's interview, though, is how he talked about every single time he walked by Eric Bieniemy in the building. Eric Bieniemy's like, "Hey, have you looked at Caleb Johnson yet? Hey, have you looked at Quishon Judkins? Have you looked at," like, he's so excited about every single one of these prospects. Yeah, there's no doubt, Sean, you're 100% correct. Bears fans, you are going to get a new running back in 2025 in the NFL.
I agree.
Draft.
You feel bad if we don't come away with one, right?
Yeah, there's no, I mean, you guys,
I would.
you look at this draft class, there's going to be 16 teams getting a new running back in this draft at some point. Like you guys are talking about Devin Neal, who's probably going to go, what, the 4th, 5th round? That guy could be a weapon on your team immediately. So yeah, if it's the first round for me, Sean, you talk about upgrading these way too early starting positions. If it's, DeAndre Swift's going to be your starter to start the season for sure. There's no doubt about that. You probably would say Ian Wheeler and or Roschon Johnson are the backups, and then you have Travis Homer on special teams in case of emergency kind of guy. But yeah, I would pass up on Gianti in the first round for me personally, and I would go after a guy like Judkins or Caleb Johnson in the second round, and that would be my weapon as opposed to my running back. He would be your Sonic for me personally. I think both those guys we just mentioned are good at doing everything. They can pretty much do everything well.
And I believe Illinois Jones asked about moving up here. He said, is 10 this year's 3 and a 26-3 worth moving up 5 spots?
Kind of confused at the question there.
Yeah, I think he's asking if there's a player that we would move up. And
so give up a 1st and a 3 this year, a 3 next year, and to move up 5 spots to pick at 5.
And that would be, I'm with Erica. I don't know that I would do it for Carter. I know you guys are going to call me crazy, but I would do it for Mason Graham.
So would I. That'd be the only player I'm moving up for in this draft, guys. Unless you have the Bears for some reason have cornerback ranked. This is their highest position in need, which I don't believe they do. But if they did, a guy like Will Campbell would definitely. I'm saying like move up from 10 to maybe 9 to make sure you get a guy like, or not Will Campbell, Johnson. Sorry, but out of Michigan, but. For me personally, the only guy I'm moving up for in this draft, guys, is Mason Graham. And the reason that I say that is because I believe that Mason Graham is going to be a game wrecker, an absolute game wrecker, 100% a blue chip quality player for the next 10 years. So if they decide that 3 techniques that important to them, then go get them.
As we flip to this defensive side of the ball, Erica brings up Mike Green, who had 17 sacks. I was actually reading about Mike Green today, and they were actually comparing his size, his ability, and his measurables to a former Chicago Bear named Khalil Mack. I don't know if he's going to be Khalil Mack in the NFL, but it was an interesting article that I was reading. Apparently, there is a scout out there that feels that he's very comparable to him. So, I mean, I don't know that I'm trading up for a Mike Green, but I wouldn't mind drafting him in a trade back scenario if that was what the Bears felt they needed. And really quick, Illinois Jones. We've talked about Josh Simmons a bunch on this show. I am absolutely in love with him. I think he's the best left tackle prospect in this draft. Calvin Banks probably being a very close second. I personally think those are the only two true left tackles in this draft, and maybe Irsay as well, just not ranked as high. So
here's an interesting question for you guys. I'd like you guys to answer. Dante, hey, thanks for joining the show, everybody. Erica Broski, Illinois Jones, Dante, Aunt Mass, breaking news, Bruce Elizabeth. Eric, we appreciate you guys so much. You don't even understand. Without you guys, there is no us. There's no point for us doing this. But Dante says, do you guys want Swift's complement or replacement? What are you looking for in the draft? Somebody to complement him or replace him? Maybe both. Maybe
I was
both.
about to say maybe both, because honestly, you still have Swift under contract for 2 years. I actually think he's going to look better. He had like 1,300 all-purpose yards. He wasn't like terrible for the
He had some
Bears.
huge games for the Bears.
Right, the Bears were just ineffective offensively for a lot of the season. And it was strange because they were really bad in the first half, but really good in the second half, which is uncharacteristically Chicago Bear football. It's usually the other way around. But I would say this. I mean, whenever you draft a guy, you're hoping he's going to be your future, right? No matter who he is, no matter where he is. If you're drafting a special teamer, you're hoping he's going to be there for a long time. Otherwise, don't draft him. But I don't see them re-signing DeAndre Swift after this. So no. I think who you draft is going to have to complement him, because you're going to want him to start, I would imagine. And then, of course, eventually he's going to have to replace him. So, and maybe if it's not his type of style, meaning, a speedy sort of scat back type of guy like DeAndre Swift who can catch the ball, maybe he is a bruiser. And then next year you draft another speedy guy that's going to be his replacement. But I think you're right, Kyle. I think it's both. I mean, he's going to have to do both. You want him to start right away, and you want him to eventually replace DeAndre Swift, because the rookie's going to be cheaper than what Swift is going to want as next contract.
And the way we all know that the way that Ryan Poles does these contracts, guys, it's not going to cost the Bears a lot to get out of DeAndre Swift's contract in the last year or so. If they hold on to him this year, let him be the starter, bring the draft pick along slowly, and then you could easily get out of DeAndre Swift's contract, and you could have this a 1-2 punch of a guy like, say, Caleb Johnson and Ian Wheeler, or Caleb Johnson, Roshan Johnson, somebody like that. But yeah, I agree with you. I think any draft pick you take should ultimately, the goal should be for him to be a starter in the NFL at some point, unless you're talking about 6th, 7th round picks, and those guys are more just to fill vacancies than anything, right?
And I agree with Broski here to a point. Getting out of his contract, I think that in the right usage of DeAndre Swift, he's a lethal weapon, which I don't think last year he was used properly. If you consistently running him in between the tackles, you're not using him correctly. This guy needs to get out of space, create bubble screens, things of that nature, get this guy open, get blockers in front of him, and watch him create. The ball in his hands in space, he's a deadly player in the NFL. So I would like a compliment if I'm answering that question. I think that I want the guy that runs in between the tackles. That would be our David Montgomery, because I do think, in a way, I think Gibbs is a hell of a lot more talented than Swift, but I think Swift can be Gibbs in this offense to a point. Get him in space, like I said, let this guy make plays, and then you bring in a Caleb Johnson or a Judkins or one of these guys that you just pound up the middle. And get those short yardage. And hey, we touched on it on Monday a little bit. If you draft Tyler Warren, you can definitely hand him the ball, and he can get you some short yards as well on some trick plays. Like they use that little Pat Mahomes used that little dish off to Travis Kelce. In between the center and the guard. You can use that with a Tyler Warren, and he can break it into the end zone or get you 15 yards. Something like that. Just keep adding weapons, blue chip talent to this team one way or the other. And I love the fact that, as you touched on a little bit earlier, Kyle, that he said that they put themselves in the best position to take the best player available. We really don't know what they're going to do. We don't know what Ben Johnson's looking for. This is his first draft. So we really have no clue. But I think it's starting to become a little bit clearer. Maybe.
You guys, there's nothing they could do will surprise me. Anything, I am open to them doing anything that they think they need to do. Like, so if they draft a defensive end, I won't be surprised. If they draft a linebacker, I wouldn't be surprised. If they drafted a running back for number 10, I wouldn't be surprised. Offensive lineman, wouldn't be surprised. But yeah. And then real quick, guys, just so we can get this out of the way, the Projected starters for the 2025 season at wide receiver right now, guys, are Zacchaeus in that slot, DJ Moore and Roma Dunza on the outside there. Who would you guys take if you traded like to the middle of the first round? Because I don't think any receiver is worth taking at 10. And then who would you, if they don't decide to take a receiver in the first round, who do you think could improve this team in the middle rounds? Who would you like to see them draft in the middle rounds?
I mean, I think someone in the chat touched on it too. If you're going to trade back, I'm a much bigger believer in Matthew Golden than I am of Isaiah Bond. I know Bond's got speed and stuff, but so did Velus Jones. It didn't make him a great NFL receiver. I don't like the analytics of Isaiah Bond. So for me, I like, if you're going to trade back, Matthew Golden in the later half of the first round. And, as far as the slot, I touched on him on Monday. I love me some Jack Beck. I love this guy. I think he's going to be a really, really good receiver in the NFL, and he's going to become a quarterback's best friend, a guy who can find the soft spot in the defense, who can just help the quarterback come back, be open for him, and be his best friend. So if we were going to look at that way, those would be my two guys, Golden back in the first round. And then if we were going to go a little bit later in the draft, I would take Jack Beck. I also am a huge fan of both receivers from Iowa State too, Noel and Jaden Higgins. So, but
Yeah.
I love Jack Beck.
So you like Restrepo too, right?
I do like Restrepo too.
I was just going to say, yeah. And there's a lot of actually sneaky good wide receivers here. And I think wide receivers benefit most from those really prolific offensive minded coaches, because they just like to throw the ball a lot. So whoever they draft, if they draft a wide receiver, I think they're going to wind up doing pretty well. Because I think Ben Johnson, you're right, Kyle. I think he knows exactly what he's looking for. And it's not necessarily just a type. It's like an actual guy. Like he has a list of measurables and unmeasurables that he's looking for. And if he has that, that's the guy that I want. I like Restrepo. I like Golden. I'm still, I know he's really, really small, but I like that Johnson kid. But there's so many good wide receivers. I don't know if there's, a superstar stud in this year's draft for wide receiver. There could be, who knows? But I think maybe passing on the first round on a wide receiver and maybe doing a second or third. I mean, we've got 3 picks there between those 2 rounds. That'd be a great spot to get some really good value on a guy that maybe somebody else passes up. Like any other draft that happens in the NFL, just like fantasy guys, there happens to be a run on a position, cornerbacks start going, and guys are like, oh, shit, we got to go get a cornerback before they're gone. You might get somebody sneaking down in that second or third round that you just did not expect to be there. And if he's higher or highest on your board remaining, then draft the dude. You're right, Kyle. If they have their board and they trust in it, they trust in the research. And I honestly think Poles doesn't draft that poorly. I know it doesn't seem like that, but I don't think the players he was drafting were getting developed. So I think that's a big problem.
It's just a third round, Jason. You can't draft in the third round for some reason.
I'll say this.
I don't know. Whatever. For me, a wide receiver, because I'm not a big Ted McMillan fan, as you guys know. There's not that superstar stud guy that is vying for the number one position.
Yeah, because they all went last year.
Yeah,
they all got drafted last year.
Here, hey, Kyle, if you want to touch on this, because this is a name that people just seem to be forgetting about, but Luther Bird and Erica brings up a great name. He seems to be falling to the back of the first round 100%. Of the draft.
Yeah. If he somehow falls in the second round, the Bears have wide receiver on their high on their priority list. That's a guy you're taking. I mean, he's a potential blue chip player in the second round. And you guys, I will say this though, you guys know how I feel about this team. You guys know that I think this is Rome wasn't built in a day. This is going to be a long drawn out process. I don't think the Bears they're capable of addressing all of the holes and the depth in this draft alone and this offseason alone.
Correct.
I think they're still 1 year away from competing for a championship. So for me personally, guys, this year is all about making Caleb Williams comfortable. You've heard me say this on this podcast 1,000 times over. I would love to go get one of these stud defensive tackles and defensive ends, but I would not be upset at all if the Bears decided to draft, say, Calvin Banks at number 10, a running back like Caleb Johnson on the second, or any of those running backs that you guys have talked about, and then a wide receiver in the third. But I will say one thing I took away from Ben Johnson's interview was, and I don't want to spoil the fun for, we're going to talk about these interviews a little bit later, guys, but he did talk about how he doesn't want all the receivers to have the same skill set. You heard him say, we don't want them all to be 6'4" and 230 pounds. We want guys who are good at doing different things. Another thing he talked about late in that interview was how important the slot receiver is to this offense. It's so, he's like, for some reason, he just seems to be the guy who gets the ball the most. Every offense I've ever ran, that's the guy who gets the ball the most. So I do expect them to try to find like a true slot receiver. But I will say this, guys, there's not a Bears fan on the planet who could be comfortable going into the season with just DJ Moore and Rome Odunze on the outside. Because if one of those guys is hurt and you're down to Rome Odunze or Zacchaeus, you're in big trouble. And Caleb Williams is in big trouble. So the Bears need to draft a receiver in this draft. I'm not saying it has to be a first-round pick, but they need to draft a receiver in this draft. They absolutely have to.
I will say that if and I know we talked about this before, and I don't know if you were a big fan of it, Kyle. Moving parts around, you can always move DJ Moore into that slot. But if it does stay this way, guys, I will say this. Based on what Ben Johnson said, for fantasy purposes, y'all might want to pay attention to a late round pick in Zacchaeus, because he'll be an important part of this offense if nobody fills that slot besides him.
Yeah, and I love what Broski Bear says here. Broski Bear says Ben loved that little Khalif Raymond slot receiver in Detroit. He talked about that in the interview. He loves those little guys, those Julian Edelman, Ladd McConkey type player. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Bears are trying to find a way to get back in the fourth round and take exactly what Farias is saying right here, Restrepo. I think Restrepo is probably the best pure route runner in this draft. He's certainly not the best athlete at the receiver position, no doubt about it. The guy doesn't stand out at the combine in any way, shape, or form. He just knows how to play football. He's very smart. He knows how to run routes. And I think he could be a lot like Amon-Ra St. Brown or Ladd McConkey or one of these guys who just constantly finds themselves open in the flat in the middle of the field. Big, huge security blanket for Caleb Williams. I would love to see them try to find a way to get back in the late third, early fourth, and take a guy like Restrepo.
I got one more point before we move on to defense, and I hate to go back to the offensive line, but also one thing I forgot, one of our backups that is still on the team, Bill Murray, was injured. He had pretty much a very similar injury to a guy we're probably going to talk about in a few minutes here. He had a torn pec. So not only are we thin on offensive line, it's just we're not very deep. So who knows what they're going to do? I mean, maybe they don't even draft an offensive lineman. I don't know, but just something to consider.
With all these top 30 visits, half of them being offensive linemen, I have a strong feeling. I don't know when they're going to draft an offensive lineman, but I think it's almost as sure of a thing as them drafting a running back.
Yeah.
And Erica, he has not signed back with the Chargers yet. Keenan Allen, not as of this moment.
I know he wants to. He absolutely wants to.
Depending on his contract, that if he signs with San Diego or LA, that might actually result in like a 6th or 7th round compensatory pick next year. So that's also something to think about, an extra pick.
Yeah, and I do agree with Dustin, guys. I'm not saying that Restrepo is Ladd McConkey might be the best in the NFL at that slot in the future. You saw him come on late last year, especially in that playoff game. He's an absolute beast. Sean talked about him a lot before fantasy football last year. That guy, I expect him to be better this year. He's another guy that, Sean, you bringing up fantasy, keep your eye. If that guy's falls into the 3rd round somehow, that's a guy I would be drafting.
Broski Bear, I found the Bears top 30 visit list on walterfootball.com. He seems to be on it and updating it.
Great website.
Pretty quickly. I can't find him anywhere else, so I just keep going back to Walter Football, and that's where I've been checking them out. Unless they pop up on my Twitter feed.
NFL has the official list as well.
The only thing that's good about Walter Football, Sean, is have you noticed that he hasn't put Tyler Warren on? Tyler Warren has been announced as an official top 30 visit for the Chicago Bears. It was announced. They are going to visit.
He wasn't on the list?
No, he's not on walterfootball.com, which is really weird because everybody else he's put on there, he's getting before anybody. He's getting these names before I didn't even know Dylan Fairchild was an option for the Bears. I go on walterfootball.com today, and there he is. But for some reason, Tyler Warren isn't on the list. It's just very strange to me. I don't know why he's not putting him on there.
Yeah, Broski. I'm standing by this, and I said it on Monday. I'm going to say it again today. I think it's Tyler Warren, possibly at 10, and if it's not, it's a trade back scenario. Sorry, I don't think Ashton Genty is going to be there. I think he's all over the Raiders' radar. I think the Raiders are going to take him at 6. I don't think it would be an option for the Bears. I think Mason Graham will probably go at 5, maybe to Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's 5. And I've seen Mason Graham go at 7 too. So I don't think those two guys are going to be there for the Bears. I do think Tyler Warren's going to be there. And I'm going to be with you guys at River Street Tavern. If that name's announced, dude, I might do the first backflip of my life.
I want to see you try.
I'm gonna try.
Paramedics on hand in the wake. How many whiskeys do we have to feed Sean to land that thing?
On the defensive side of the ball, I don't think we need to break down each spot because I think we kind of touched on them through the offensive part. But if we were to sit here and look at the defense, it's running around down the bottom of the screen here. We're obviously we've talked about the DBs, we've talked about the linebackers, we've talked about the defensive line. These are three depth concern positions for the Chicago Bears. What is your number one need that you want? If you can only, you need all three, but you can only have one. Where are you going first? Secondary, linebacker, or on the defensive line? Go ahead, take it away.
With this draft this year, I would say maybe do defensive line just because it's so deep at defensive line, and you probably got a greater chance of hitting on a tackle or an edge. You just can never have too many of those guys either. But you're right, we do need somebody at each level. To me personally, and I think it's going to get done because they were talking about it, the number one priority of the defense right now is to extend Kyler Gordon. But beyond that, I would draft. Honestly, I would draft an edge because I think Sweat is good, but I don't really consider him an elite level guy. We'll see what happens this year. Deo, really good pressure guy, generates tons of pressure, but he's not, what do they say on the score? Sack machine. He's just not that guy. And maybe he is this year. I don't know, but that's what we need. We definitely need a stud that's going to draw double teams every play so that the guy on the other end can get the sack. So that would be my number one priority.
Kyle?
I mean, Sean, analytically, I would probably agree with Jason. You probably need that stud defensive end that almost every good team in the NFL has. You want your Myles Garrett type player for sure. There's no doubt about that. And I would be ecstatic if the Bears drafted one at 10. I don't know if there's necessarily one of those guys in this draft. What I will say, Sean, is just as a biased, lifelong Bears fan, middle linebacker for me is listen, you guys, I'm not taking anything away from Tremaine Edmonds. I don't think he's as bad as he's looked on the Bears. I don't think he was put in the right position. I think he'll look better this season or Dennis Allen. But man, to have that middle linebacker, that Brian Urlacher, Ray Lewis, that guy we've been missing for a long time here in Chicago, that Dick Butkus type player, the guy who runs everything, the Mike Singletary, the heart of the team, the Mike linebacker who keeps everybody on the same page, no bullshit kind of attitude, violent. I want that guy. I want that middle linebacker. I don't know if one of those guys is in this draft either. I mean, we've talked about guys like who were the two guys we talked about yesterday or on Monday, Sean?
We talked about Jahad Campbell and
Campbell and
who's the other one?
Walker.
Oh yeah, Jalen Walker. Thank you, Jesus.
I think Campbell is probably closer to that guy of those two because I think Walker's probably more of a pass rush specialist than anything. But Jahad Campbell would be absolutely amazing. And I would have no problem moving on from Tremaine Edmonds if it means bringing Jahad Campbell here. I want that middle linebacker. It's just always something that you guys, as Bears fans, we've had a pretty disappointing life here. All we've ever had to watch is the middle linebacker, pretty much, and some good defensive linemen here and there. And then obviously your Mike Browns, your Charles Tillmans. But I just miss the good old days of the Bears dominating on defense. And I'd like to see him go get a guy who can kind of control the pace of the game and get everybody in the right position. A guy like Jahad Campbell would be awesome. But I don't think the Bears have that high on their priority list. Maybe next year. But this year, I just don't think that's probably in the forefront of their mind. But would you guys be upset if the Bears drafted Jahad Campbell at number 10?
I would not. I would actually be pretty excited. I know our counterpart, Dustin Jones, would be as well. I'm with you, Kyle. I've been fortunate enough to grow up, and Jason as well, through seeing some of the best linebackers the Chicago Bears have had to offer, from Singletary, to Urlacher and Briggs. I've never actually watched up until my recent time bad linebackers in Chicago. So I'm with you. I would be really happy if they got that guy, that Jahad Campbell, that could be your next Brian Urlacher. Like I'm actually I really want that. I don't know. Again, I'm kind of with you. I don't know if that's if Campbell is that guy. He seems to be. His analytics seem to tell you that he can be that guy. I think Jalen Walker's a little bit more of a project. I don't think I know he's a rated number 1 linebacker. Yeah, the tweener hybrid. Michael Parsons. I think we talked about him on Monday being like Michael Parsons. I don't think he's that good. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't like when I read things and they're like project this, project that. Jod Campbell seems to be more redefined and ready from day one to be that guy.
Yeah, and Dustin here says he is absolutely, Jod Campbell is that dude. I know we've heard Dustin compare him to guys like Patrick Willis, and Dustin's a huge Niners fan. So if there's anybody who watched Patrick Willis the most, it would be Dustin Jones. If he is that type of guy, if he's a Patrick Willis type of guy, take him at 10.
Yeah,
Absolutely take him at 10. Take him at 10.
You want a defensive player that I think we're missing right now that can just simply take over a game, like Khalil Mack did his first game against Green Bay, where he had that first half was just I don't even think anybody else was playing, or Brian Urlacher's Arizona game where he literally won the game. That's what we need. I know every team is looking for that, but it's been a few years now, and we really, really, really could use a guy like that on defense.
Yeah, and those were the player counts that we brought up on Monday for Walker. That's another reason why I'm just not. He's rated as the number 1 linebacker. I'm with Dustin. I'm with you guys. I think it is Campbell. I'm a little confused at the rankings. I know the rankings sometimes aren't always, the be all end all. But if it's me, it's Campbell, and I don't think it's that close. I know the Bears did have a top 30 visit with Jalen Walker. But again, that could be a feeling out process. I don't know. I don't know what that was about. It was kind of a surprise to me.
Oh, was it a top 30 or was it I thought it was just a pro day visit.
I can tell you, I haven't.
I think it was just a pro day visit. I don't think it. But yeah, Sean, I agree. I mean, I don't understand how you could compare the two stats and say that Walker is better than Campbell. It just doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, Campbell's a tackling machine, man. I mean,
we shouldn't discount either. We shouldn't discount.
They're both good players. They're both good players. They're both very good players. Walker's got to be good. He's an athletic freak, is what he is.
It was a pro day visit, Kyle.
Yeah, it was.
We shouldn't discount that. Poles does something very, very well, and that is he's really good. I don't want to say predicting the draft, but he looks at what future drafts are looking at, like who's going to be coming back out. And I know he'll take a chance on a guy now if he knows next year it's going to be really bad at that position. And I've also seen him wait. I mean, the whole Caleb Williams maneuver was genius by him because he knew Caleb Williams was coming down the pipe. That's why he gave away that first round pick the first time, because he knew we're going to get it next year, so I'll take it and we're going to be awesome. He also, I don't know if it's just luck, but he did say that this draft, the heavy parts of the draft, the positions that are heavy at, is kind of fitting the Bears' needs. And I can't say I disagree with him there. So don't be surprised if some of these visits, maybe even to like eliminate a player, not necessarily to solidify him as a draft prospect, but maybe like, hey, we have some questions. Let's see if we can get them answered. And if not, all right, he's scratched. He's off the board.
Yeah. It's tough, man. The Bears, we've heard both these guys talk about, Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson, talk about how they're happy with the starting units on this team, but almost every single unit on this team is short depth, and it's tough. It's like, where do you go? I mean, I guess at this point you would go best available player with every pick you have, right? Because you could use depth at every single position on the field if you're the Chicago Bears. If you want to be that championship caliber team like the Eagles, where they're bringing in defensive linemen you've never heard of and they're getting sacks in the Super Bowl, and like, if you want to be that team, you need to go out there and get a bunch of athletic freaks. And we've heard them talk about speed. I think you're going to see a lot of that drafted this year.
And you guys, I pulled these starting lineups from the Bears, and right now Noah Sewell is your starting lineup.
I saw that on the bottom of the screen there, Sean. That's interesting because I was expecting it to be Amen. I'm not even going to try his last name, guys. I'm sorry.
And you know what? They could have just put this together really quick. I don't know. I honestly copied and pasted this right off their website. So
we're not very deep on ESPN. It's got T.J. Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, Noah Sewell, Amin Ogbong.
Come on, put it out.
Swayze Bozeman and Carl Jones Jr.
I can't wait to hear his name announced so I can get it. Anyone in the chat, help a brother out here because I can't say that name. We're just gonna call him Amen. God bless you.
Yeah.
really quick, anything else on the defense before we move on to the next portion of the show?
For the starting units, no, I'd say we pretty much covered it all, guys. Like we said, they could pretty much upgrade at almost every position in the draft at some point. Like we need a tackle, we need a defensive end, we need a safety, we need another corner in case obviously Tyreek Stevens question mark. They definitely need a running back in that room. They definitely need a wide receiver for depth in case of injury. The tight end could definitely be improved, no doubt about it. I don't think we have that dangerous Brock Bowers type guy on this team yet. It's probably something that Ben Johnson is interested in adding. I mean, just all the only position I don't think we definitely don't need to upgrade at right now, guys, is Caleb Williams if he stays healthy. We'll be all right. And you know what? No backup quarterback in the NFL is going to come in and win a Super Bowl besides Nick Foles and the Eagles, which was ridiculous.
One last thing to mention.
He'd be starting.
About to get into it. Ben Johnson also mentioned by name Austin Booker on defense. So
he did, and
I don't know if he's interested in him or maybe it's a poke at him because he did say he'd like to see him gain a little bit of weight, which is 100% true. But that's something to consider as well. If they feel like he's good enough to back up and be that edge rusher in the future. But
we're definitely going to touch on that here in just a moment. But before we do, we just want to remind everybody April 24th, 102 North River Street Tavern. We will be out there broadcasting live, getting your reactions to our 2025 first round draft pick. And as always, we are raising money for charity. Bears Care will be sending in the money. They'll distribute it to where they feel it's most needed. And how are you going to raise this money? Well, we're going to raffle off tickets for awesome prizes like this Charles Tillman signed autograph, this amazing touchdown catch by DJ Moore in the corner of the end zone, Dan Hampton wreaking havoc in the Super Bowl. We also have a couple of Cubs tickets. These are for the Florida Marlins on the 12th of May, 6:40 start time. And then we have these tickets right here for May 5th, 6:40 start time against the the San Francisco Giants. Also just donated by Big Fudge Breaks was a Dan Hampton autographed mini helmet inscribed with 2002 Hall of Fame on it. And I just picked up a DJ Moore autographed helmet as well. We'll also have Bears trivia. So if you come out, you play Bears trivia, one of these prizes is going to be dedicated to the grand prize winner, whoever's the smartest Bears fan in the house that day. Also, drink specials. Don't forget, I know everyone wants to wet their whistle while they wait for that draft pick to be announced. We got 16-ounce tall boys for $3. That's a hell of a deal, folks. And I know beer makes you hungry, right? So we're going to give you a half off chicken bites. Get those chicken bites. There's tons of flavors to choose from. They're extremely delicious. I just had them the other day. They're amazing. Come out. We'd love to see you. Put some comments to some faces on April 24th, 102 North River Street Tavern.
Hey guys, and don't forget the biggest surprise of them all. Just 3 months removed from back surgery, Sean's going to do a backflip if they draft Tyler Warren number 10 over.
It will be the talk of the town.
Well, did you see it snap? I don't think I've ever seen anything snap like that before. That was amazing.
Look like Johnny Knox when he lands.
Oh God. Really quick, we're going to play this clip. But it did seem after these Tuesday meetings that Ryan Poles, the Bears GM, has a lot of faith in Karam Abagaji, the former third round draft pick out of Yale. Had a strong career in the Ivy League, and new offensive line coach Dan Rochar said he sees potential, and he is willing to work with Amagaji to help his transition to the NFL become a little bit smoother, showcase his skill that made him such a promising prospect. So, as we get into this,
did you guys think there was a shot in there when he was talking about Karam Abagaji? Because I think there was a shot in there.
Well, we're gonna listen to what our GM had to say right now.
Yeah, and then you throw Karam in the mix, who not only do I still think highly of him, especially going back and just watching the Washington game. There's a lot of signs of him being successful, especially the tackle position. But then he also went through a tough spot, which was the way it was set up was unfortunate. Minnesota wasn't a great outing for him. So, but there's only a very small sample size there. I know that competition is going to, make the best of both those guys. But I think it makes us really ask tough questions when we're watching, specifically like a left tackle. Like, is this guy going to make us better in year 1, year 2, year 3? How do we feel about our guys? Especially in a case where, Dan and Kyle and Declan really haven't had time with either one of their tackles. We've got to see how it plays out too. There could be, if we have 2-3 guys that we think are in that spot, they may not be there at 10 either. So we'll be ready for all the different situations that can pop up.
I'll tell you, I love that lapel he has on. I'm a big lapel guy, so that's really awesome. But nonetheless, what did you guys take away? It seems like, and this is why I was saying earlier in the show that we're all thinking left tackle. We all know his love for Braxton Jones, and now it seems like maybe he's putting his faith back in his former third-round draft pick, Karam Amagaji. What did you guys take away from that?
I think he was hedging his bets there because of the Braxton Jones injury and still the unknown of it. Ben Johnson actually said in a Sports Illustrated article, and I think literally, I liked Kieran a lot coming out last year. He was a guy we had earmarked as a potential development project. That is him as a Detroit Lion offensive coordinator saying that. So, I don't know if that was one of the reasons why he liked Chicago so much, is because maybe him and Poles see the same types of things in offensive linemen. But to me, when Poles was making that shot, or the comments about Kieran Amagaji, I think it's more to prep us, the fan, to the possibility that Kieran might be starting at maybe not game 1 or week 1, maybe week 3 or 4, but it really all depends on Braxton Jones's ankle situation. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, it's tough, guys. Obviously these interviews are pretty political. These guys are never allowed. He's not ever going to come out and be like, "Oh, Karam Amagaji sucks, so we definitely have to address that position." You're always going to say you're the good things, but I think, like he said, if one of these tackles in the draft could upgrade at the position immediately in year 1, year 2, or year 3, if you don't think Calvin Banks or Josh Simmons are better than Braxton Jones, then there's an issue there to begin with. I like Braxton Jones because I do. He's done his job, and he was the value for a 5th-round pick was absolutely phenomenal. But I'm not necessarily comfortable going into this season with Braxton Jones at left, Darnell Wright at right, and then their only backup tackle being Karan Amagaji. They're going to have to draft a tackle at some point in this draft, guys. They have to, because you need one more. What if Braxton Jones and Karan Amagaji get hurt in the same game? You have to draft a tackle in this draft. So if I'm them, Braxton Jones' contract is up next year. Karan Amagaji is too big of a question mark. There's not a big enough sample size. I'm going to get somebody in the 1st or 2nd round to shore up that position for sure. No doubt about it. Like I've said 1,000 times, the most important person on this team is Caleb Williams. You cannot put him in any bad situations this year. No excuses. Let's see what he develops into. Hopefully he can be the guy we all think he can be, and a franchise quarterback. Give him every opportunity to do so, and go get yourself a left tackle.
And I'll tell you this, man. Depending on what happens in this draft, dude, Brian Poles might be one guy I don't ever want to play poker against, man. This guy,
Dude,
he's the
king of it. He's the king of it.
And Trax has put up a good point, man. I think he said he thinks it's a perfect answer before the draft. Act like you ain't going to get a tackle because you're solid at every position, and then you turn around and take the pressure off. And someone else said in the chat earlier, maybe they're hyping up Warren to drive up his value. So maybe someone trades for that pick because they want Warren more than the Bears. And all of a sudden now we're sitting with 2 extra picks. I mean, this guy definitely knows what he's doing at the helm. And I've been critical of him in the past, but he's starting to win me over. Learning on the job was something I didn't want for the Chicago Bears, but it seems as though Ryan Poles is a quick study, and he's learning very well. So
I just have to say, guys, I think that if you watch his body language and you listen to the tone of his voice, when he talks about Karan Amagaji starting against the Vikings, that was a shot at Matt Eberflus. That was 100% a shot at Matt Eberflus. Like, hey, that never should have happened. I'm not blaming the player for that. I am blaming the coach. That was an unfortunate spot for him to be in. He was not ready for that moment.
It's a good take.
We did that to him, but that was a shot. 100%.
Good take. One thing too, Ben Johnson, and I forgot to download this, but we're going to listen to it really quick. Hold on one second.
The luxury of a very good offensive line. That's what we look to capitalize on and feature. I see Darnell Wright very much in the same mold as a Penei Sewell, and we try to do things the last 3 years in Detroit to highlight Sewell in space, highlight him on one-on-one blocks, him against their best defensive lineman, I see the same thing for Darnell. And that's where look forward to getting to know him a little bit more this springtime and in training camp. But what I saw on tape last year showed a lot of promise in terms of the player that he can be.
Now, we've had extensive talks about number 57 on the Chicago Bears here.
Sean could not be happier about what Ben Johnson just. Sean's been saying this shit for 3 weeks now.
Now here's the deal, and I want to say this and get this out. Brandon, I love you to death. I know you're not happy because you wanted Jalen Carter at that pick, but you also have to build the line. What you got out of Darnell Wright might be your right anchor for the next decade with multiple Pro Bowls. This guy is a stud. I still think that, Jalen Carter in Chicago wouldn't have had the success that he's had there. There was a lot going on around him coming into the league. He fell to a team that had his buddies on it, helped reel him in, helped shield him, helped guide him. This Bears team was a mess. This guy could have been a complete wild card on the Bears, but that doesn't even matter to me. What matters to me is the fact that you said on Monday he was the 21st pick. Well, I think he was the 21st ranked player in the draft that we took at 10. I think he's played himself up that draft board. He's more towards the top 10 talent, especially when you go look at his numbers. When you put Sewell as the best right tackle in football, and this guy's a millimeter below him in every analytical statistic you can find, you got one hell of a gem at that spot.
Well, and he's being asked. He was being asked to do more than Panay. I think Darnell Wright ran the most solo tackle or plays of any tackle in football. Did he not?
He was on an island all season long. Yep.
Yeah, he was number one, wasn't he? And on top of that, he's like 22 years old. I mean, he's very young. He was a very young draft pick. He's only going to get better. There's a lot of room to grow. And he's never had either a head coach or offensive line coach of this caliber. This guy is maybe he's primed to become the best right tackle in football. We've talked about this before, guys. If you're going to draft a quarterback number one, if you know that's part of your future plans, you have to address the offensive line, even when it's not the sexiest pick in the room or the shiniest thing in the draft. Eventually you need a lot of Darnell Wrights to make Caleb Williams look like you want Caleb Williams to look. I am absolutely fine with the Darnell Wright pick. I'm not going to compare him to Jalen Carter for the rest of the career. I think both teams got better. Both teams got good players. I'm not going to sit here and defame Jalen Carter, but I've dug deep into the whole car accident street racing story today. It's a lot more disgusting than I think some people understand. There's some very sad, terrible things that happened that night, particularly on the part of Jalen Carter. Some of the things he did that night were absolutely horrendous, terrible. I have no ill will towards Ryan Poles whatsoever all for not drafting Jalen Carter. Do I think Jalen Carter is an absolutely phenomenal football player? 100%, no doubt about it.
They met with him. They talked to him. They
know. And Ryan Poles went down to Georgia and met with his lawyer, the prosecutor. I mean, everybody involved in the situation, eyewitnesses from the scene. I mean, everybody, and he felt like he was being lied to. And you know what? If that's not a guy you want to work with, then so be it. I love Darnell Wright, and I think he's the cornerstone of this offensive line for the next 10 years.
The only bad thing about Darnell Wright is he's not a left tackle. That's the only bad thing about
him. Yeah. And you know what? That was just Brian Post talked about that draft. He said, all you can do is take the players that fall to you. There's really no dominant left tackle here right now for us to take. Darnell Wright was our guy. That's the guy we went with. Good for you, Ryan.
Yeah, go get him. I got two more clips for us. Here's another one.
How do you look at that, and how does it apply to the way that you scheme on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, so I first got into that last year, and we were just looking for ways to simply raise that number for us. And so it was, how do we get a higher completion percentage? I think you saw with Jared, he had probably a career high in terms of completion percentage, and also augmenting the run after catch with our pass catchers as well. So it's something we talked about. It's something we drilled. And I want to say that we were pretty good a year ago in that department in Detroit. And so something I'd love to carry over here to Chicago.
I don't know if you've seen that social media meme of you at your introductory press conference. It's like a month later. It's like bad lighting. Oh, man, Ben, looks like this job is really taking a toll on him already. You seem energetic. How are you feeling right now?
I feel great. It's just I don't sleep very much, but so goes life.
Yeah. So you're going to get the guys in the building for the first time in about a week here. What's going to be your message to them day one about what this version of the Bears is all about?
Yeah, listen, it's a completely different year. So I know last year didn't go the way that a lot of them wanted it to go, but we're going to start fresh. We're going to keep the standard very high for them. We're going to set that bar high, and we're going to push toward it.
Sean, real quick, before you address anything, can I just talk about something real quick? Because this is something I really wanted to talk about. I mean, first of all, let me say, guys, I cannot get enough Ben Johnson.
No, me neither.
I mean, I absolutely love this guy. You know, Ryan Poles, his interviews are good, but they're definitely political. You can tell he's listening to the powers that be. Don't give away too much, so on and so forth. Ben Johnson just digs into it. The guy loves football, man. But there's something I want to talk about. What he was referring to early in that interview, guys, is he's talking about EPA.
Yes.
Yeah.
So EPA is something that's shown up in the NFL over the past few years, more and more prominent than ever before, right? What the EPA stands for is, and I'm not trying to act like anybody in the chat's stupid. I didn't know much about EPA until a couple of years ago. So just to kind of explain it to the listeners here, EPA is expected points added per each team, and most of those stats have to directly tie to the quarterback. Almost all of them, to be exact. He said in the interview that EPA has overtaken turnover ratio in terms of winning and losing. So the team, he even said this, the team with the higher EPA wins over 80% of the contests in the NFL. So, I mean, that is absolutely astronomical. The fact that he's noticed that and is starting to focus on it. Just for anybody who doesn't really know what it is, just a real quick synopsis here. The EPA, expected points added, is a measure of how well a team performs relative to expectation. For example, if a team starts a drive on the 50-yard line, its expected points to start the drive would be about 2.5, a measure of success which defines the value of each play by the effect it has on the offensive likelihood to score. So for a good example for people is the EPA of a 5-yard run could be totally different between two 5-yard runs. For example, if it's 3rd and 10 and you have a 5-yard run, you are probably now punting at 4th down. Your EPA has dropped. If it's 3rd and 3 and you have that same 5-yard run, your EPA goes up because you've just given yourself a first down, which ultimately increases your likelihood to score. This is something that I did not know much about until I think it was last year they really started honing in on this and talking about it a lot. It's almost the metrics. Is it to me, guys, or is the metrics of football becoming similar to the metrics of baseball? I mean, they're really starting to dig into all this.
This is like a plus minus. This is basically what an EPA is. It's a plus minus.
But him talking about that, our head football coach talking about that, was the happiest I've been listening to Ben Johnson since he's joined the Chicago Bears. I mean, absolutely. What an amazing interview. Absolutely amazing interview. Amazing.
And you know, he understands the number too. Like he understands how it's affecting the team. What's crazy and really important to me about that, and I think why he pointed that out, because it's probably one of the biggest rooms of improvement for the Bears, because Caleb Williams was like second worst.
Yeah.
I forget who was worst. Will Levis, who like blew everybody out of the water.
Not gonna.
Yeah. Hope those mayonnaise commercials worked out for you, dude, because I don't know if you're going to be starting anytime soon.
No, it is very impressive to listen to Ben Johnson and watch how he breaks down football, man. It's truly a blessing that this guy is our head football.
It's so out of the norm for us, guys. We expect like, we're dissecting the process to figure out what the process is in order to process stuff so we can find out the process. Like we're so used to that bullshit that just these little interviews like this make us so excited. And other fans have been listening to people like who Chiefs fans listen to Andy Reid are like, a big deal, whatever. Like, hey guys, we've never had this shit before. Even when they asked him, when they were like, obviously Caleb Williams took too many sacks last year. He said a lot of those sacks were on his, he blames himself. What do you think the percentage of sacks fall on his shoulders as opposed to the offensive line or the scheme, blah, 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 blah. And he said, well, the only thing I can do is look at how fast Caleb Williams gets the ball out of his hands and try to improve that as much as I possibly can. That's my goal as his head coach. And he has to understand the way I see the field, and I need to understand the way he sees the field in order to work in tandem and have that perfect marriage. I absolutely fucking love Ben Johnson. You guys have heard me say this a million times in the last 2 weeks. I don't care who they take at 10 because I trust Ben Johnson until he gives me a reason not to trust Ben Johnson. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Bears finally found a really good head coach. He's very smart. He loves football, and I think he knows what he's doing.
100% agree.
Yeah, and not only that, I think the people he put around himself are very good at football, X's and O's, analytic guys. And this leads me into this next one from Ryan Poles.
Coach, that's another thing I should probably said in the opener, it's these coaches and their communication has been outstanding. He wants a very aggressive attacking defense, especially the defensive line, attacking the man in front of you, not so much playing laterally, two-gapping, or even penetrating in gaps. It's really just attacking the offensive lineman in front of you and creating disruption in the run game, and also to bubble back into the quarterback's feet to make it uncomfortable for the quarterback too. So that mentality is definitely going to be there. That's something we'll get done, and we have a lot, and we've done it, in free agency as well. Speed is another emphasis.
It's something that we just talked about. Speed. This is what they're looking for. This is what they want. And that right there lets me know that context that I take away from that is the Bears are looking at an edge in this draft to help get to the quarterback, or possibly a D tackle that can get to the quarterback's feet, as he just said.
Kenneth Grant.
So it's very exciting. It's very exciting because, we all got really excited when we signed Dennis Allen, because we're like, man, this guy knows how to coach football on the defensive side of the ball. He knows what to do. His schemes, they've worked. We've seen, the Saints improve. I think the most impressive thing for me, as you were just saying, Kyle, is not only the Ben Johnson here, but it's the Bill Johnsons. It's the Dan Roshires. It's the Dennis Allens. It's who's the DB coach that we got from the Cowboys?
Al Harris.
It's these guys that they brought in. It's like, Ben Johnson has to, be the puppet master and look over everything, but he brought in enough smart people where he can leave that room and know that room's being taken care of. And I don't think we had that in Chicago under Eberflus's tenure here. So
What do you mean, Sean? You didn't like Alan Williams?
He was my favorite. He's right up there with Mel Tucker.
Well, it's such a turnaround, right, guys? Like, sorry, Jason, I'll let you go ahead, but it's like, we hired Shane Waldron last year, and all we heard was like Seattle fans were like, "What the are you guys doing? That guy's awful. He's terrible. Hey, Jackson Smith and Jigba, what do you think about Shane Waldron? Is this live? Then you hire Ben Johnson, and you watch podcasts with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he's like, damn, that sucks. It's like the Bears are just have this unlimited money and this amazing coaching staff. Like, this is fair. Like, it's all coming together, and you could feel it. You can almost feel the culture changing in Chicago. You can almost physically feel it. It's crazy. I couldn't be more excited about it, guys.
For me, it's mostly the fact that we know we've got, like, and I hate to say this because he might not be, but maybe like the smartest guy in the room. I know he's young and he's still got a lot to prove. He hasn't won a single Super Bowl. But everybody in the league seems to universally want to play for this guy.
Yeah.
That is probably more important than how good he is as a play caller, because if we can attract guys, that veteran might sign for a 2-year deal for a little less money just because he knows we got a chance to win something here or build something great. Whereas, before maybe a guy would come here, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. You know what I mean? I know all the players want to get their big paydays. Why wouldn't you? But, to a guy who's already made, $100 million in his career, $1 million may not be that big of a deal for him to win a Super Bowl. So hopefully we get there. Hopefully we are a perennial playoff team. That has been my hope for so long. I don't want to be just, every, 2 or 3 years. I think I heard a stat since 1985, the Bears have won 6 playoff games. 6. That's it.
Woof.
Yeah.
Buzz's girlfriend. Woof.
That's what I want to change.
Well, another thing I love to be sorry.
And you know what? Hold on. This is something to the last one I wanted to show you that we had here.
We are so happy to be joined by the general manager of the Chicago Bears, Ryan Poles. Okay, so Ryan, the draft, less than 1 month away. You guys have the 10th pick, and I know we just met, but I promise I can keep a secret. Who are you guys taking?
It's way too early. We got a couple weeks of work to do before we figure that out, and but we're excited about the opportunity.
Okay, so if you were to give one adjective to describe the type of player that you guys are looking for that you feel like would be a fit in Chicago, what are you looking for in a player?
To me, it comes down to toughness. We're looking to establish an identity to kick this thing off and really get this team going in the right direction. We've been able to make some really good moves to set us up, with O-line and D-line. And that puts us in a position to attack the draft, with kind of a best available mindset. So we're excited about that.
We didn't really answer the question. I like tough players. What is he going to say? I like weak players? That's a generic answer.
I think it's the
I thought he was going to say nasty. When she was like, pick one word to. I thought he was going to be like nasty. We want some nasty guy.
Well, that's how we explained the offensive lineman, like whatever, 1 or 2 years ago.
I think he's just really excited right now. I mean, his new, his face, there's a glow to everybody around the Bears right now. I mean, he's got a good feeling. You got your quarterback in place. You rebuilt your line. Much like us, we all feel really good going into the season, even though we got this brutal schedule that's staring the Bears down. It's not going to be a very fun one, but from week to week, year to year, everything can change. So you don't know if the Niners are going to be as good. Who knows if the Ravens take a step back because of injuries? You just don't know. So you don't want to put all your cards in and say, this is, the Bears. We did have a 12-5. That's why I wanted to put this up really quick. Dante has the Bears at 12-5. This is a really tough schedule for the Chicago Bears. I do think it's one that they can conquer, though. I don't know about 12-5, but I could see 10 wins. I mean, let's look at it this way. They could have beaten the Packers twice. They could have beaten the Lions twice.
Should have beaten the Packers.
Should have, correct. And the Vikings, they were right there with them too. Cleveland's not that good. They're going to be awful. I mean, if they get Carter, their edges are obviously going to be difficult to deal with. You got the Giants. They're not going to be that good. The Bengals offense is potent. They have nothing on defense. Obviously, our longstanding rivalry here with Washington, that's going to start to brew with Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. And then San Francisco, the Raiders, San Francisco, I still think San Francisco is going to be a lot better than what people are saying. They think it's like a self-destruction mode. But, I mean, if you look at that offense that they have, man, that offense can still tune some people up, man. I mean,
they have Kyle Shanahan. That's enough. That's all you need.
They have a really great tight end. They have a really good running back. They still have Ayuk. They still have a lot of weapons.
The thing that scares me about the schedule is you're not just playing tough teams. These are take out Andy Reid. These are the best coaches in football.
Yeah.
These are the best coaches in the NFL. You're playing Mike Tomlin. You're playing even the Browns coach won back-to-back coach of the years 2 or 3 years ago. He won Stefanski won back-to-back. You're playing Kevin O'Connell twice. You're playing Nick Sirianni, who's been to two out of the last 3 Super Bowls. You're playing Dan Quinn, who made Jaden Daniels look like the best rookie quarterback in the history of football. Kyle Shanahan's on that list. Matt LaFleur twice. Dan Campbell twice. John Harbaugh in the Ravens. I mean, these are guys who are going to try to make Caleb Williams as uncomfortable as they possibly can. It's going to be a very, very interesting year. You're going to know who the Bears are pretty damn quick this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder if the NFL is going to make this a habit. Like they pack the NFC, they pack the divisions for every team across the board in the second half of the schedule. I wonder if that's going to become a theme in the NFL now, and we'll be looking at some of these tougher games like the Ravens, the Steelers, the Niners on the first half of the schedule before we even get into our division. I know
Caleb Williams knows this offense. That's so scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And too, they did announce, the NFL did announce that they are going to be doing a triple header on Christmas moving forward. Now, did you hear what the Kansas City Chiefs made a play for?
No.
They went to the NFL and said they deserve, you can Google this, they deserve to be the annual Christmas game. They want to be on Christmas Day for everybody for the rest of our lives. And I'm good with that.
The Buffalo Bills deserve Christmas. I feel like every Bills game I've ever watched in my entire life, it's snowing. I'm not kidding, dude. Why is that? Why is there always fans shoveling snow out of the Buffalo Bill Stadium? Like they deserve the Christmas Day game. Every time I think of the Buffalo Bill home game, I think snow.
What else is there to do in Buffalo?
This broke earlier today. It says the Chiefs asked the NFL to make them the staple of Christmas Day, and this was per The Athletic.
Yeah, and the
I'll be
Chiefs will
honest.
get it because they're going to get whatever they want because of the mighty Chiefs and Taylor Swift and all the other stupid shit that happens in Kansas City.
That's fine though. Let them have it.
I don't want to watch them every Christmas.
There'll be 3 games on.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to watch them every Christmas. That's
Well,
just me.
Jay, it's either watch the Chiefs or deal with your family.
Yeah, I guess that's
Obviously,
true.
you're watching the Chiefs.
Give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, one more thing real quick before we get out of here, guys. One more thing I just
Yeah.
want to talk about is I love how Ben Johnson also in that interview, he addressed both the depth concerns. You heard him talk about that was one of the first things he said. A lot of depth concerns on this team. And then the second thing he talked about, which he's really the first guy I've heard say this, is the day 2 picks in this draft are probably more important than anybody you can get in the first round. Like he's talking about those 3 picks he's got in the second and third round. He's like, there are so many good players in this draft. Those guys right there are going to be where you build this team for the future. Those like we talked about, Dylan Fairchild maybe being a 3rd round pick, a guy who you could, once Joe Tooney retires, you just bring this guy in and they never skip a beat, just like they did in Kansas City when Ryan Poles was there. So just everything Ben Johnson said, I'm super excited about this Bears team. I cannot wait for the draft, guy.
I'm sorry. There is one thing that I did forget. Breaking Bears news a little bit. Something that we've all been waiting for, actually. And if I can find this really quick, here we go.
Last season, I told a lot of the guys, that'll still be a priority. For me on our exit meetings at the end of the last season, I told a lot of the guys in terms of future, if it was contracts are coming back, anything like that, the important thing is I got to get with our current and new, the new coaching staff and kind of see how the different players fit based on what scheme we're going to be running. So we've been able to have those conversations. And I know Kyler is a guy that, we want a part of this moving forward. So, the time of that, I'm not sure how that all is going to work out, but that is a priority.
That is a priority. Thank you,
Sean.
Jesus.
He also says in there. Well, first of all, I don't know if the timing is right because if he was telling players that in the exit meetings, that means he was telling them they're going to have a new coach before the coach was fired. But secondly, he says in his interview, I don't know if you guys heard this or not. He says it real quick, but he says some of the guys that are here now might be better on other teams. So
Yeah.
they are open to doing whatever it takes to make this team better. We've talked about guys like maybe Cole Kmet if you go draft a tight end, or a Tremaine Edmonds if you draft a linebacker. Like it sounds like they're open and willing to doing anything to make this team better. Lindsay, real quick, she says Andy Reid, very Santa coded, makes sense. I think Andy Reid needs a beard to take that role. And then Dante, I know you've been calling me burning all show. It's all right, buddy. It happens to me on a daily basis. Don't worry about it, man. It's happened to me my whole life. We do look a lot alike, so
That's
I won't hold
weird.
it
You guys
against
look
you,
so
bro.
similar.
Here, there is one more thing, guys. Ben Johnson was asked about Braxton Jones, and I forgot that I had this down when we talked about it earlier. Ben Johnson said he's right on track, recovering from a season-ending ankle injury that he needed surgery for in December. Says he does believe he will be limited throughout the start of training camp. He said the number one thing, in my opinion, that tackles need to do is pass protect. Obviously, I think he's got to get his feet right. We're going to challenge him and maybe gain a little bit more weight so that he can be an anchor a little bit better in pass pro. But everything I've seen so far has shown he's a phenomenal athlete out there on the edge, and that's something that we can work with. So I don't know if they're just talking up Braxton Jones right now or not, but I just say everything that I've seen just lets me know that this guy is going to be here for the Chicago Bears, and they might be not looking at a left tackle if they believe in Jones and Amagaji.
Sean, what I'm getting from what he said is if we decide not to take a left tackle and upgrade that position, Braxton, you and Smythe are going to be rooming together on the road because he's going to be stuck to your hip for the entire season. He said he struggles in pass protection. I expect them to give him a lot more help than they did last year. I don't think he's going to be left on an island very often. And like we've talked about, guys, whether you like Braxton Jones or not, at some point you got to replace him. It's the last year of his contract. You're not giving Braxton Jones $20 million a year. I'm sorry, You're just not. He's just not that guy. If you're going to do that, you do that for a guy like Trent Williams, not for Braxton Jones. So you need to go get your Trent Williams. It's time. Maybe not this year, but certainly next year.
One last injury update too, guys. I read something on Mr. Kwani B, who said he's 100% healthy. And in that article, it was a little strange because he said that it wasn't his head that was giving him issues because he sat out like 12 weeks. He said it was his nervous system. He didn't feel right the whole time.
Oh, it wasn't my head. It was my brain.
It sounds scary as hell.
I don't know if that makes me feel any better, Jake.
Yeah, I mean that's brain or spinal cord. That's very scary. But
I mean, it's
bad.
also
I feel
him. It's
bad.
not his doctor, so I don't know if he knows how to explain it. But
it just sucks because don't you guys feel like Jaquan Brisker was coming into his own, man? He was
Yeah.
you were starting to hear his name a lot. They were talking about Braxton, Jaquan Brisker on the TV a lot, and then that happened right there. And
I just don't want him to be the new version of Mike Brown. You know what I mean? Because he is good, and I want him to be on the team. I love the guy.
And he just plays with such reckless abandon, you know. Just something. But look, hey, who was around the ball right there? Tremaine Edmonds
picking up the fumble.
Picking up the fumble.
Yeah,
So
he's a beast.
look, I'm okay. I'm okay with him coming. Hopefully, he's okay when he does come back. I love Jaquan Brisker. He hangs on my Bears Wall of Fame with Kyler Gordon right behind me. I really hope that he can put together a solid season. But I definitely do think that the Chicago Bears better be looking for a better stepped-up replacement in case he has to miss half a season again.
You guys, real quick before we get out of here, Illinois.
I got one more nugget. One more nugget. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but Ben Johnson said Dennis Allen would like Austin Booker to add some weight to help him set the edge. He said he'd like to get him to at least 250. He's listed currently at 245, but he said Dennis Allen is extremely excited about his skill set. All I have to say to that is rock, chalk, J, Hawk. Let's go.
He's talking about adding obviously like muscle because a Booker's not going to add like, a spare tire around his waist. But 5 pounds to me doesn't seem like it's that big of a difference or a deal.
No.
I think he's probably talking. I'd like him to be like 255.
You talk about a game of inches, Jason. Like this much arm length on a tackle. I mean, it's insane. Like it's crazy. It's like, if your arms were that much longer, you'd be one of the best tackles in football. But
that guy did not have very long arms. That's all I'm saying.
Jason, I'm with you. I don't read as much into that stuff as these analyst guys do either. But I do want to answer Illinois Jones' question.
Yes, it was a great question.
So he said, do you guys think that Ryan Poles made a mistake drafting Rome Odunze instead of going Fashanu and drafting a receiver in the third round instead of Kronan Magaji? No, I don't believe so at all. I mean, I think the Bears' plan was never to re-sign Keenan Allen. They knew it was going to be too expensive. They wanted to brought Keenan Allen here to be a security blanket for Caleb Williams to help his development. But ultimately, they were going to groom Rome Odunze to become that number 1 or number 2 receiver. I think they were thinking in terms of the future. And I think he knew that Braxton Jones was serviceable enough to fill that position until they could finally go out and get their left tackle of the future. I think it was just too hard to pass up on Rome Odunze and that skill set, especially for a guy who had 1,600 yards at Washington. You guys, that's no joke. That's no fluke.
The only guy I wanted there instead of Rome was,
Brock Bowers. Yeah,
that's right. I love me some Brock Bowers. I love me some Tyler Warren. I'm a big tight end guy, so I'm really hoping that the Bears. I mean, I'm fine with the Bears keeping Cole Kmet. I don't want to sit here and act like I hate Cole Kmet. I love Cole Kmet. He's a Chicago product. He's right here from right up the road. I think he's a good football player. I just think he has some deficiencies. His blocking techniques last year, he was blown up on a lot of his blocks last year. You can go back and look at the film. Either he wasn't aware of the plays that he was supposed to be running, but there was some problems.
Yeah, his blocking got worse with Shane Waldron.
Yes,
I don't remember it being that bad before Shane Waldron got here. I don't remember anything like
here. The one thing I really hope, and Ben Johnson, obviously we know he's a very smart guy, is they will use Cole Kmet inside the 20. The guy has sticky hands. He catches everything that comes his way. He's a big boy. He's a great target in the red zone. Hopefully this will translate to him, 600 yards, 8 to 10 touchdowns this year for the Bears. I'm rooting for Cole Kmet just because I want Tyler Warren. I have no ill will towards that gentleman at all. I love Cole. I love me some Cole Kmet. So I just wanted to get that out there. Do you guys?
Justin's getting real off topic here. He said, "Do you guys think Eberflus was a Russian plant sent to destroy the Bears from within through espionage?" And then he follows it up with, "Do you guys think those NASA videos are actually real?" I don't even know what he's talking about.
I don't either.
I think Justin's getting slap happy at work there.
Really quick, anything else you boys want to touch on before we get out of here?
Oh, he's talking about the Earth being flat or round. Yeah, no, I don't.
Oh.
I don't. The Earth is round. I'm sorry, I've seen it. We've seen it.
No one here on this
Too much-
panel.
too much of it.
No one here is a flat earther, are they? On this
No.
panel.
And
Yeah.
Dustin is being facetious. Just so you guys know.
I believe you if you could
Let's-
spell
let's-
facetious for me.
Let's ask everybody. Bruce, are you a flat earther, man?
Earth.
Flat
Earth.
Earth or
Earth
round
flat.
Earth?
Yeah.
You're
flat.
round. You're a round earther, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. If you said flat earther, boom.
Bring him back on.
We love you, Bruce. We love you.
yeah.
I'm just messing with
Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay.
Well, hey,
that's
one
all I
more-
got for you guys.
Yeah.
One more time before we get out of here, don't forget April 24th, River Street Tavern. You get to see our ugly faces live broadcasting. We're going to jump into the crowd, get your reactions to what the Chicago Bears did, either drafting someone at 10, moving back to 20. We're going to be live. We're going to get your reactions. We're going to give away a ton of great stuff, raising money for charity for those less fortunate than us. How are we doing that again? We're raffling off this awesome Charles Tillman pick, this awesome DJ Moore pick, this awesome Dan Hampton pick, some Cubs tickets against the Marlins and the Giants. I tried to find a couple games that the Cubs could actually win, so that's why I went with the Marlins and the Giants. And we also just got from Big Fudge Breaks, our boy Zach donated autographed Dan Hampton helmet inscribed with a 2002 Hall of Fame on it, and then I just picked up a wonderful DJ Moore autograph. $3 tall boys to wet your whistle. Fill your stomachs on some half bite chicken wings. 102 North River Street Tavern. Get out there. Like I keep saying, I like to put some comments to some faces. Anything else before we get out of here, boys?
Yeah, Sean, buy that baseball helmet and give it to me.
Dude, there's two of them out
I
there.
love that.
I don't think Jason's
I
seen it.
love
I'm going
that.
to show it on air. I'm going to show it
Jason,
on
have
air.
you seen it?
No.
Have you seen it? Oh, it's amazing, dude.
This thing's
I want it
badass,
so
dude.
bad, dude.
It really is badass.
It would be the crown jewel of my Bears memorabilia collection. It's absolutely amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I've personally never seen a Bears baseball helmet.
No, whoever did that should do more of it.
Oh, nice.
It's Bears baseball helmet signed by that's DJ Moore, right, Sean?
That's DJ Moore. Yeah.
Signed by DJ Moore. It's got the
And-
Bears head emblem on it.
Yeah.
Well,
and-
they had a baseball helmet, not a football helmet. They put a sticker on it. We're like, oh, okay, great, that worked.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it. I think it's badass, dude. I really, and on the back, it's got the seal from the Authenticity. So I mean, it's a real DJ Moore autograph, dude. It's pretty badass, dude. I was actually thinking about getting one of the two, but the guy won't give me a break. I mean, he wants a lot of money for him, so I told him we were doing it for charity, and he still may come back, and he hasn't responded. I shouldn't say he won't give me a break. He hasn't responded yet. So, but then he's gonna be pissed off when he finds that I kept it in my garage.
I think Bruce is also being facetious. I don't think Bruce believes the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
Sean, is there anything else you want to get to before we get out of here?
No, I want to
What
thank
about Mr.
everybody in
Booker?
the chat.
We should.
What's that?
I said, what about Mr. Booker? Does he have anything to say?
Oh yeah, Booker
What
always
about
has
Austin
something to say.
Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
Let's go.
Fuck yeah.
That a boy. Awesome.
Boy. Want to thank everybody in the chat for joining us. Spend a little time on this Wednesday. Hopefully, we're going to snap out of these cold temperatures. It actually warmed up outside. It was about 72 before we jumped on. It was beautiful. But Dustin, Trax, Illinois Jones, Amphiarius,
Ant-Man,
Dante,
Breaking
Erica,
News Blues, Elizabeth,
Jones.
Broski,
Lindsay,
Everyone.
Lindsay,
Everyone.
Everybody, if we missed you,
Crooked
Dante, I'm
Commish.
sorry. If we missed you, I apologize. Yeah, Crooked Commish was here. I don't know if Phil was here today. I think he is on.
I don't think I saw Phil today. We missed you, Phil. Hopefully, he'll
What
be
the
back.
hell, Phil? Erica, we always Erica's like our top dog. I skip
Yeah.
a lot of these
You know
shows.
who
when
we
can.
haven't seen in a couple of weeks is Plank. Is everything
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
Someone give me a location on Plank. We
Wellness
miss you,
check.
bud.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a wellness
old
check on Plank.
Can't
man.
forget the Scottish Bear. Love the name.
Scottish Bear,
Absolutely
yep.
love the name. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all. Be safe. We'll see you soon. Remember, keep that draft party in mind. We hope to see you out April 24th at
Peace
River
out,
Street Tavern in
guys.
East Dundee. Thank you at River Street for our sponsorship. We appreciate you guys. Some new news coming out of here quick
And I
pretty
think
soon. here.
Monday we're gonna have a new sponsor. I'm working on it right now.
I was trying not to give it away.
No, well, then we might have two. But we definitely. I'm pretty sure I got one locked down, and it's a traveling sponsor.
Is it progressive, Jason? Is it Luminati's testing?
Oh,
That'd be
no, this
awesome.
is a traveling sponsor, and they're actually going to be this Saturday at Crystal Lake Ice Arena, handing out food. And they'll have our barcode or our QR code, excuse me, on their vehicle. And I'm just waiting to get a little logo for them, so we can put them as a sponsor, and we can share their locations, so you guys can go out to this food truck and have some wonderful food. So we'll be getting those. We'll be getting that out to you. We love y'all. Thank y'all. Everybody, stay safe out there. And
Yeah.
so, hey, don't forget. Oh, really quick. I'm such a fool. I'm jumping over on CSP. We're going to talk about the Wanna Parlay app. Join us on CSP. We're gonna break down these brackets, Final Four, all the way to our national champion. And then we will have Dustin and Brandon back on this channel tomorrow doing the bare minimum. Y'all showed up strong. They had a fantastic show last week, so make sure y'all burn the midnight oil with our boys Dustin and Brandon tomorrow night. And hop over to CSP in about 20 minutes. We'll break down the Wanna Parlay app, and we're going to show you guys how to win some money this weekend on the Final Four all the way to the national championship. Until then, we love y'all. Bear down. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Peace,
Go
guys.
Florida.
Ooh.